Right, welcome to the session here today. We have, two participants, Sigda and Aishwarya and myself. Team Abudaya, thank you for your support here in the sessions. Today we're going to talk a lot about Evoke Awareness. This is the core competency number 7. And I would like to call this the art of opening the doorway. And there are slight changes in the update in ICF in 2025 for this core competency, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as well, because I'm excited, right? I was excited when the change happened. Okay, let me put up my slideshow. Just give me a second so that we all can see the same thing here. All right. Okay, my intention here today is, can everyone see my screen share? Yes, yeah. My intention here is very simple here today. I came in without much preparation in terms of what could we create in the session here today, but I do have a kind of like a background info, which is actually this core competency number 7, Evoke Awareness. So that's going to be a topic, but we can go the same old boring way of going the lecture style, but I would like to be a little bit more interactive so that we can build in some awareness in the sessions while learning the evoking awareness with the client itself. And this is typically how we are at. And perhaps let me quickly introduce myself for those who first time seeing me here in the core competency sessions. My name is Charlene. I am from Singapore, and I am also part of the level 3 journey here with Vijaya. And the learning here about evoking awareness has been evolving on a daily basis, I would say, right? So I would love to have a chit chat over here. If you can't type, if you can't unmute yourself and speak up, you can type in the chat here. Let me know where you at in your coaching journey at this point of time. Right? You can feel free to unmute and share as we are going along to create more awareness.
So I started my ACC journey about a year and a half back. And I'm yet to be ACC certified. It's just been a little busy time for me with my other work.
Okay.
So
Well,
this
thanks
is
for
taking the
sharing.
back seat. But yep, I'm in the last leg of getting my ACC certification. And I do coaching, but not as my primary workspace. So not a lot of it. It always helps to have these sessions to keep me aware of what's happening, though. That's why I'm here today.
Okay, great. And thanks for also sharing, why are you here today, Stigna? That's very important. We know what is our intention for being here. Yes, I'm here to facilitate the sessions, but I'm also wanting to learn a little bit more from the session itself, myself even, right? Thank you for sharing that in terms of where you are at in your journey. Aishwarya, if you can ready and unmute, you can share as well. You know that you still need some time to turn on your camera there. Okay, I'm not so sure whether she's there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps let me share a little bit why am I calling this evoking awareness as a part of art of opening doorways. I'm going to share with a story that one of my mentors has left an impact on me in terms of looking at this core competency about evoke awareness together with the client. Because at every single part of the conversation, it feels like this. Imagine that you are walking on a street down into a restaurant, a stretch of restaurant, and you kind of like looking at the shops in the restaurant and see which one to go in. And when you identify one, you kind of like walk further, and then the first thing that you see is usually a menu outside at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And the service staff, they will come over and say, "Hi, sir. Hi, ma'am. Would you like to take a seat? How many person?" And you look at the menu, you go like, this is the food that I want to eat. Okay, maybe yes. And you decided to go in and you walk through the entire restaurant. Just imagine that you walk through an entire restaurant and being served at a seat. And when you sit down, more menu they're gonna come. The waitress, waiter, the service staff is gonna give you the menu. this is our menu, this is our daily special, this is our promotion for the day, for the week, festive promotions, this is the promotions, right? A lots of menu out from the one that you saw outside at the door. So the service staff left you for a while. He walked away. And then few minutes later, he come back and he asked, sir, what would you like to have today? Ma'am, what would you like to have today? Right? And you talk, oh, I would like to have this soup, that meal, this rice, that noodles, this pasta, that pizza. And the waiter actually also asked, so we have this promotion here today, right? It's actually at a very good price, and you got this, you got a main dish, you got the fruits, and you got a dessert, and you can also get a coffee and tea, and you get a soup with it. Would you like to have this instead? Right? And you go like, that sounds interesting. And it went on and it went on until the service staff got all your order. And then he walked away. He left you and your family and friends on the table. And a few moments later, your first dish came up, your second dish came up, your third dish came up, and you start eating. Perhaps for some of the high-end restaurant, the chef will come out and say and ask the questions like, hi ma'am, hi sir, how do you find the food today? And you went on and give your feedback. And then after that, they say that, hey sir, would you like to give a 5-star review on Google review? And we're gonna give you a 5% promotion, 10% promotion for your bill today. And you happily actually went on and give the review, and then you pay and you walked out. What just happened? What did you notice about this restaurant visit? Anybody would like to share your observation? What just happened of you walking from not knowing what to eat, ended up with a sumptuous meal, and ended up you give a 5-star Google review? What happened actually?
I think the restaurant and the people who went to eat both got what they were looking for.
Yeah,
So kind of
absolutely.
a win-win thing.
Yeah. It's just like a coaching conversations, right? The coach can fulfill with what we are doing. This coaching thing, we say we want fulfillment, when we want to add value to the client, and the client got a value they want. But in the process itself, did you also notice what happened? From the moment that you step in the restaurant, you saw the menu until the service staff came in, and then he usher you into the seat. He give you some time to actually take a look at the menu. After that, he come back and ask you, what would you like to eat? And after that, the meal serve. After the meal serve, the chef come. After the chef come, you continue to eat and you happily eat. And then they upsell you a Google review. Let's put a Google review. And you go like, yes, of course, this is a very nice meal. And you make payment and you leave the restaurant. That is 8 doorway that you went through to have an experience.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yes.
Having a coaching conversation is also an opening the doorway for the client to go in. Imagine halfway in one of the process of the restaurant, the service staff just says that, sir, this is your seat, sit there. Later we'll come and order your food. It sounds really very rude. And you go like, what is this place? I'm not gonna order whatever things that he upsell later. I'm not gonna do anything else. I'm just gonna get my fried rice. I'm done with it. And after that, I'm done. Right? So at any point of time, when we open a door, the client may not want to go in. And when we open a door wrong timing, the client will not bite it. And this is how it looks like when I say the art of opening the doorways when we evoke the awareness, right? As we're going through the entire core competency here, I'm going to share a bit more examples. And I hope that you both can also chip in and share some examples in terms of, what is also emerging for you as we are learning here together. All right? Have this walking into the restaurant. At the end of the day, you give a 5-star review. The restaurant got your business and everybody is happy. All right? Because people are not coming for just the sessions. They're coming for that feeling of clarity and looking for possibility. Okay? Right. Okay, we have Divya joining in shortly. Okay, I'm meeting her. Hi, Divya. We just kind of like finished the first half. Hopefully I'm not too late, so we're just beginning. All right. So have this restaurant scene at the back of your head as we're going through this. Okay. So nevertheless, we're going to take a look at the core competency itself for a while. I'm going to leave this screen here for 1 minute for us to really read it through and embrace a little bit what is actually being written here in the evoking awareness with the client here. Because we are here as a coaches to facilitate the client insights and learning by really using different tools and techniques, such as really powerful questions, silence, metaphor, analogy, and there's many other tools. The keyword here is actually the such as, because it is an example, not saying that you must use powerful questioning, you must be silenced, you must use metaphor, but how are you using the tools? In that restaurant example I gave you, that service staff gave you lots of promotion brochures. That's one of the tools. He using his training as a service staff to serve you into your seat and serve your food with a set of very respectful kind of term, right? And the chef came out and then they'll ask you, how is the food? And these are the kind of tools that the restaurant deploy so that the patrons feel welcoming, the patrons feel comforting, the patrons want to give you a 5-star Google review. Similar like coaching over here, we're facilitating the client experience, right? I hope this is sinking in a little bit here. And there's 7 core competencies here that we're going to take a look at, right? I hope everyone had a chance to really read through this for a while as I'm sharing a little bit more about why we are doing this, evoking the awareness with the client, okay? Right, let me go through that one by one a little bit. When we are considering the client experience itself, right? Here's how the slide is going to look like. There's slides, there's data. You can actually screenshot that, all right? Otherwise, you can private text me that later on. I can actually share the slides with you too. So when we are actually tailoring questions and bringing through the client with their experience that they're experiencing outside of coaching, we are bringing in also aliveness for this client in this moment. Not a very generic scripted way, not a very prepared questions that you might have your favorite questions to ask, but sometimes the questions will just come and go, and then you will feel something. And this evoke awareness can't be doing it without the active listening and also being in the present moment with the client. And first of all, when we are considering the client experience for the first 7.1 over here is really, have you been also empty the cup? What is your aliveness means to you, right? Being in the session here with the client. Anybody would like to share some insights in terms of what actually just hit home for you? Because this is really important here to really take a look at what is aliveness means. So, how do you know that the session works and is alive and client actually get the value at every single moment?
Charlene,
Yeah.
to me, aliveness really means being fully present during the session. And when it comes to evokes awareness, it's not just about evoking an awareness for the client, but it's about that co-creative process where while you are becoming aware of something, you're sharing the same thing with your client, and then the client reciprocates with their own awareness. So the awareness is the field, it is not the goal. So that's what I see it as.
Yeah, Aishwarya just mentioned that this part, deciding what might be most useful, right? When we consider client experience, when deciding what is most useful, and that's when, you ask yourself, what is being alive here with my client? What is their energy? What is this space that they're calling for attention? That is actually something that is worth noting and make a decision together. Hey, would you like to sit here? Would you like to sit there? Would you like to have this menu, that promotions, right? Remember the restaurant scene that I was describing just now? Every single touch point, every single questions, and there will be a feedback from a client and says that whether this is all right, this is not all right. It's not about whether did I ask the right question. It's more of like, did the client respond to my question? Okay. So when we are actually checking in with that client experience, remember this, check in with the aliveness level. are we feeling like really daunting, wanting to finish out these coaching sessions and I just want to get going with my life, right? This is just a session. Or you go like, hey, client, actually, what is actually bothering you here right now? Okay. When we can move a little bit further down the road here is there will be challenges when we evoking awareness in the client. Because at the end of the day, we are holding up the mirror and says, what is a blind spot? What do you want to, for example, client says you want to be confident. What do you want to be more confident about? Right? What is actually the gap here? And there's a pitfalls here. When we come to this particular core competency here is like, there will be sometimes client not felt challenged by the coaches. There will be sometimes client felt like, hey, I'm not getting the questions. I'm not really knowing where am I heading to. Soft coaches kind of doesn't challenge, and the client loop and loop and loop. They tell you the same story 3 times, 4 times about the grandmother story, what happened in their life 3, 4 times, 5 times. That is an indicator that the client may not have been challenged enough. When coaches are inside this particular space, you might be afraid that, what if I challenge a client and the client doesn't like me? What if the client actually will say something that they say they don't understand me? And what if the client what if my question doesn't land well? And therefore, there is this pullback from really asking the client questions that will be of useful to them. Link back to the 7.1 earlier on, talking about what might be useful. Think about the service staff again. What does the service staff do? You have put in an order, the service staff do an upsell. So we have this promotion. If you do this, then you have a free soup, free drink, and you have free side dish. You go like, oh, I never thought about that. Okay, let's do that. And to the back of mind of the cashier is like, touching, I upsell something, right? The harsh coach sounds like a very pushy salesman, yeah? So you have to order this because this is really good for you, that your family is so big, but you gotta have this. But you don't want a dish, right? The client doesn't feel supported. There's 2 sides of a coin in terms of what we are actually trying to achieve here. And ask ourselves this challenge, what is feeling challenging for me? Am I giving myself as a coach a permission to ask question that is useful to the client? All right, that is the kind of challenges that we want to instill. Like a little nudge. It's not a hard push, but it's like a nudge, Hey, would you like to have this? Hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? That nudge is invite. It's invitation. Think about the restaurant again. When you are at outside, the service staff says, hey, would you like to come in and take a look? Let's have a seat. He's not selling you anything yet until you see the menu. Once you sit down, they serve you the water, they let you see the menu, they'll come back 5 minutes later to take your order, right? So it's very invitation. So when we want to challenge a client, it's not because we want to feel right, but it's more like, am I inviting you to the space to create more awareness? It's very different feeling. Okay, I'm going to keep referencing to the restaurant scenario that I paint earlier on, right? Any question up to this point so far? Okay, cool. Let's get deeper, right? When we ask clients questions, we ask questions about the client in the way that they think, they feel, their value systems. We want to expand their thinking. Sometimes we might not understand what they are going through, their challenges, which is normal. And in the space of when we are not able to understand and really ask deep questions, why? What is the kind of value systems the client is carrying? How can I expand this? What if I'm going to invite a what if into the conversation? It's just like the service stuff. After you order, the way that he upsell it, he goes like, sir, what if you order this and you have a free drinks, you have a soup, you have a side dish? And you go like, oh, okay, it's just a difference by $2, for example. You go like, okay, there's something doable. Let's upgrade that to a meal. Because when we approach the client from an invitation perspective, and it's going to be letting the client feels really welcoming, not feeling pushed. Client needs to feel welcome, then it will be open to you. As if you have opened another doorway into his heart and really uncover what's really deep down there. By the way, there's many doors open. And the door opening process kind of like never ends. That's why I call this entire session the art of doorways opening. Oh, the thing about the service staff, when he invites you in, he doesn't know what you want to eat. He will just perform his role there. Imagine if yourself is if it's a service staff, you don't know what the client wants. He approached every single client that he served with the same attitude, same demeanor, same way of being, same restaurant process, same way to introduce the menu. But he goes very flexible with the questions that are coming through based on what you said you want to order. And he helps you think, and he invites you to think as well. And then you make a decision. And then you say that, okay, I want a set meal. You can say, oh, no, I don't want a set meal. Maybe he upsell you another things, right? So with the beginning mind itself, we can actually go deep when we try to open the door. It's like when you open up the door and he says, hey, let's come in here. You don't open the door and just push the fella in. Okay? So if I want you to start noticing the way that you have been coaching. Are you opening up the door and says, hi, let's come in here? Or you open the door, drag the person in, or open the door, yeah, you can come in here. Whatever you want to come in, you come in. You don't want to come in, that's fine. What kind of energy that you're portraying there? Maybe it's worth self-reflecting over here. Because sometimes I do feel frustrated as well, sometimes when I'm coaching. Some clients, there was a situation yesterday that a client actually not coming into any doors at all. Whatever doors I open, she said, I don't want this, I don't want that. And it felt really challenging for a coach to actually do a coaching conversations in this way. So much resistance. Whatever door that I want to open, don't want to come in. So many doors I've opened, nothing works. What if I go in there, there's a monster there to bite me? What if I go in there and then things will not work out? You tell me what is the things that I need to do first, then I decide whether I want to go through that doorway with you. A lot of nagging voice, that also shows that the client is pretty close. All right. In that moment, I take a step back, empty my cup. I go like, have I been pushing her? I kind of like have been pushing her by showing her so many doorways you can open. You can actually go through in her situation. When I took a step back, I take a deep breath and I ask myself, am I pushing her or am I inviting her? Literally, I was doing invitation, but the energy doesn't go through in that way. It wasn't being portrayed in a way that I want to invite her to really take a look at her situation, to give her what she needs at the end. And the client actually called out on me in that session. She says that this conversation is not working. I was like, oh my God, finally someone is speaking up. This conversation is not going anywhere. I say, I agree with you. This conversation is not going anywhere. And I pause and I ask this question. So what do you want? And that's when the whole conversation shifted gear into a doorway that I didn't see, but she saw. I say, okay, let's get there. So what I'm trying to say here is when we go beyond, sometimes we also have to go backwards. And when we go backwards, it got us to think. And sometimes I'm actually glad the client called it out, that we are going in a circle. That actually get me the kind of awareness that is actually helpful for the client. Has any one of you actually gone through, have somewhat of a similar experience that you would like to share at all? Or questions that you would like to ask at this point?
But this is, I may not have an experience, but this is resonating. Sometimes I have seen myself getting a little impatient and saying, okay, why don't you just go ahead and tell me what is it, right? And you can see the closeness and then you want to prod and push and get them to answer, but
yeah. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
more of a hindrance than anything else.
absolutely. Imagine that restaurant service staff push you in there. Would you want to go in? You don't want to go in. It sounds scary. This service staff doesn't sound friendly. I don't want to get in there to eat. No matter how great the restaurant is, I just don't want to get in. Okay? Right, so that is actually bringing us into a little bit more deeper level here. Talking about what is really mean by really be here. Really noticing what is really working. With regards to the client process, similar things that experience that I shared earlier on with my client yesterday. She's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I've tried and tried and tried and tried. And I wasn't being present. I noticed I wasn't being present. When we being present is really checking in. Where am I here now? We check in. Am I still holding the space or am I closing up? Sometimes closing up can be a very visible body language that you cross your arms, you cross your legs, everything go like, you gotta sit back and look at the client. And that is one of the body language sign. But sometimes closing up is also mean that your heart might be closing up to the client. That's why they're also resonating it in a closing up kind of state. No awareness can happen when everything is closed. Which of the doorway that in you that needs to open up when you started to notice that I'm not here, I'm not present. For me, my example, when my feet is actually not touching the ground, I'm definitely not present. Sometimes virtual coaching, client can't see what's happening, body down, and then your leg cross here, cross there, and you lift up your leg and hang somewhere. The client just not seeing that. And that is a very not grounded body gesture that is actually can cause me trouble most of the time. No matter how tired am I just always need to either I puff up the cushions at the bottom and make sure my feet is on the ground. When my feet is on the ground and I can feel the feet is actually touching the floor, you feel much more grounded. Right? If you're sitting on a chair, if your feet is both feet, not on the ground, I would like you to really touch the ground. If you're wearing shoe, if it's not so much of a concern, you can take off a shoe and use your feet to touch the floor. And just feel that sensations a little. How does it make you feel? By the way, that's a trick of keeping us grounded. Okay? Of course, there are other tricks, breathing and all these things can work. One of the favorite one is literally using my feet to touch the ground. Check in here. How do you feel in your body? There may be an urge that's coming up that I'm so impatient, that urge. The impatient urge somewhat feels like somewhat in the stomach and between the heart. What does yours look like when you are not present? That you are aware of that maybe it's the one or two things that you can actually start changing in your daily life. What are you noticing? You can type in the chat if you can't unmute and speak. What is one or two things that you started to aware when presence is not here? When you're not here, what do you notice in yourself when you're not here? That could give you a clue, a hint to say that, hey, it's time to come back.
For me, it's feeling sleepy.
Yawning.
Yeah, I
There's
think
not
that,
much oxygen here.
yeah, that's a sign that I'm not here.
Mm,
And one of the things that really help me, if in case it's a wee hour coaching conversation, or it's it's a it's kind of a conversation where the conversation may not be moving as per the pace that I might expect or something like that. I usually get a bottle or a glass of water to continue to sip in,
yeah.
because that helps me stay present in the conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Aishwarya. We are coaching. I think for those so-called part-time coaches, you may resonate this is sometimes they work and then after hours you do
Yeah.
coaching, another sessions, and then you go like, oh my God, I have to go through this. I'm so tired over the day, right? I'm a full-time coach, so I can control my time. But there were a period of time when I do part-time coaching, and with work, full-time work, it was very challenging to do
Yeah.
coaching during the wee hours. I'm talking about wee hours,
Right.
not even like 1, 2 a.m. It's like 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., that kind of hours. And
Yeah, I've had like 4
yeah.
a.m. coaching as well. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
so that time, yes, I first wake up a little early so that I can get a shot of coffee before I can even sit there.
Yeah,
But
understand.
even regularly, I think something that keeps me grounded and present in the moment is also water.
Mm,
So sipping in water gives me that signal that I need to be here. I'm here. Um, and that's something that I've usually practiced. Like for you, it's your feet touching the ground. For
yeah,
me, it's
yeah,
sipping water.
yeah. Wee hours coaching, I add on one more trick is I keep rubbing my hand like this.
Mm.
Right? I gotta keep rubbing because that sensation itself keeps me alive.
Yeah.
Right? That two hands I keep rubbing here. If I cannot rub my hand, if it's too obvious, it's too distracting, I kind of like rub my fingers as well. So
Mm.
I love to do this, not to pinch until the point that you feel pain, but it's more like telling myself, hey, my body is here, my client is here, I'm actually here with my client. And that actually brings back a little aliveness in me so that I can still providing the energy. So notice the different hours when you're coaching, the level of awareness that you can build in the sessions also varies throughout the day. And this is pretty true. I seldom coach in the evening unless I know that I can gather enough energy in the daytime and actually go inside the evening coaching. Or I needed a lot more longer recovery be pre and post evening coaching, then you actually can create that space around that. Otherwise, if you can't be aware, your client can't be aware as well. When we can't be aware in the present moment, with a here now checking and hold the space and stay curious, nothing works. You see the door, but you can't open. You know what I mean? You see everybody walking past your restaurant. If you're the service staff, you just can't invite people to go and sit down and have a meal. Make sense? Imagine you're standing outside the restaurant, half dead, and looking at all the patrons walking by and go to the next door restaurant, and you go like, okay, when is one person is gonna come in here to eat? And you kept asking yourself the question. And that's the kind of same feeling as you're asking your client, when are you going to start realizing that you have been repeating the same patterns again and again? When are you going to realize that the old way is not working? You keep asking yourself the questions about the client. How about checking in? It could be, I mean, it may be not the client's problem. It may be the energy problem on the coach side, right? And that's when you started to notice what is actually not working. And that's when you have energy to notice what is actually not working. Imagine again, if yourself is the service attendants at the restaurant, and the way that you stand outside the restaurant felt intimidating, nobody wants to come in. And you generate a welcoming energy and just ask, sir, ma'am, would you like to take a seat? Would you like to take a look at the menu? When you do that, people feel welcoming again. Right? Notice what is not working with us first, and then we can start noticing what is actually not working with the client. And that's when the questions come in. So inside the notes here, there are some sample questions. You can feel free to take it down. These are some of my favorite questions as well that I can think of when I was building the slides. Okay. Let's move on. When we try to adapt that connections with the response from the clients, that is when the approach change. You just imagine again the service staff. He is serving maybe 4 tables at the same time. Different patrons wants to order different types of food. He needs to think on the spot and then pull out the appropriate promotions. In coaches' work, we pull out the types of awareness in us, or the types of coaching methodology, experience that we want to share, or knowledge that we want to share, or a metaphor, an analogy that you suddenly thought of pertaining to the client situation. When we learn how to adjust our approach, we met where they are at. Like this morning, I have a client. She came in cheerfully talking about her work, and then suddenly she shift gear and talk about how stressful is her workload is. The next moment, she just go down. I'm like, okay, shift gear. I can't talk about how well she can perform and all these things anymore. She started to cry. And the crying took half of the sessions. I was like, okay, shift gear. We can't talk about how well she can perform and what she can change. That's not what she needs at a point. There's something very emotional happen in that moment when she think about her workload. Very emotional. So I just shift gear and met where she is. At first, I thought in my mind, I thought like, oh, okay, she's gonna like talk about her work performance and how she can improve, how she can build her routine. Very progressing conversations. But at that point of time, when she started to feel emotional about herself, and that's what she needs, she just wants to be heard. At the end of the day, you know what a client told me? She said that, I just want someone to talk to. Yeah, it's just so bad happened. It was in the session with me. She couldn't find any colleagues to talk to with her problems. She just wants someone to talk to, and she talked about her things. Sometimes when we thought the client is heading towards a door, at the very last minute, they'll switch and they want to do something else. Imagine when you have put up an order with the service staff, the client go like, wait, no, I don't want this soup, I want that soup. Last minute changes happens. And the service staff, well, you don't be grumpy with the client. You don't say, you should have told me earlier you want this soup. You say that, okay, sir, I will change it for you. Can I repeat your order? You want this soup, this meal, this one. Imagine again the service staff. Imagine yourself as a service staff. When the client shift gear, how quickly are you there to actually approach differently with the client? And that's like surfing the wave with the client. And you always put in pulse check, switch the style. If this is not landing, try the other way. This door cannot try that door. This food cannot try that food. Some clients are very undecisive. I want this. And they go like, no, I don't want all this. I want this instead. No, I want this instead. And then we go like, sir, you have been switching to this, from this to this to this. All right. So what would you like to eat today? That's what the service staff do. Correct? So this is actually something that to remind when we want to evoke awareness, we are just putting the client one step forward at a time. To that service staff, when he's taking the menu down, it is just a way to get the menu out so that the chef can cook for this table. That is his objective. That's one door. Okay. So when we see a pattern that is actually happening with a client, is to really take a look at, what are the repeated things that helps the client to identify the factors that is influencing the current situation. Repeated words, repeated stories, repeated names. When we offer an invitation to explore, we just, this is my favorite way. I say that, okay, do you notice that you have been repeating that story 3-4 times just now? They go like, oh yeah, I noticed, but then this and that. Okay, so you have a choice here. Do you want to repeat the story one more time? Or would you like to actually pause and be with me for a while and see what is possible? Because it's an invitation. Do you want to pause and stay with me for a while to see what's possible? That is like a very soft way to nudge them out from their loop. Because one of the reasons why client loop is also because there's nobody in their life to hear about their stories. And when they have a chance to say the stories with us, go and on and on and on and on. Right? And sometimes it's okay to put the patterns on the table. One of the favorite way that I love to do is to let the client put down their guard. I say that, hey, can I share with you some observations here? I'm just going to put things on the table so that we both can take a look at what's really happening here. Is that okay? Right? I'll just ask the client that. I'm just going to put things on the table. You have this thing, you have this thing, you have this thing, you have this thing. Right? Identifying your patterns is one of the key skills here to quickly summarize what the client is talking about without judgment and assumptions. And then perhaps saying that, I see a few doorways here. Which one will you kind of want to go inside? I see a few doorways here. Which one would you like to go first? Perhaps you go in one doorway, you loop a big loop, and then you go into the second doorway, the third doorway, the fourth doorway. It may not be sequential. And there's no logic to arrange. Any questions up to this point yet? Okay, cool. I hope the stories has been helpful to keep reminding about the restaurant service staff and the client, that is the patron that's sitting in front of you when you're taking an order. Now, let's invite the client forward. Do you remember when the patron is ready to pay, and then the restaurant staff says that, hey, would you like to give us a Google review and you get a 5-10% discount, whatever, okay, whatever the restaurant is allowing. So this particular gesture is really talking about, we invite the idea to the client so that they can move forward and willing and able to do so. In the restaurant setting, it's like a carrot that you get a 5% discount on your bill. But in real life, with the client itself, sometimes you want to take a look at, is it too early? Is it too rushed to actually and ask for a Google review? Is it too much to ask as a Google review, right? Because they may have their own idea about want to give you the review or not. And with two of the caveats here is premature actions. If let's just say he has not finished the food, you do not know whether he find the food well before the chef come out and check in whether the patron is actually having it satisfied. And then you ask for a Google review. You might backfire. He might give you just 1 star if he's not satisfied with the food. And sometimes when we are checking in with the client, we are not giving a solution. We're just checking in, how's the food? Would you like to give us a Google review so that you can get a 5% discount? So when we give solution itself, there's an art of it. Sometimes the client may not know that the solution is actually possible. And sometimes I'm just mentioning based on experience, that this is when the 7.11 actually comes in. Maybe let me go back there first. Knowledge, right? This is something new that is happening in the last ICF core competency update. Coaches can share knowledge. I will share the solution together with the knowledge, not giving the solution on its own, even though I know the client doesn't understand at their ability or capacity at the point of time. Share it with in a sense that is helpful to the client to make the decision whether they want to take on the solutions. I guess as a service staff, I would say that, hey, we're having a 5% discount here if our patron give us a 5-star review on the Google. Would you like to do that? Contextualize it, and ask for permission. And the timing is important. And sometimes putting things on a table helps the client generate an idea. When they see what is actually happening, ask them, if you could take 1 step forward, what might that be? Based on all these patterns that we have laid out on the table. And wait, don't push. Just like the service staff in a restaurant giving you 5 minutes to browse the menu before you're ready for ordering. Imagine you sit down, he gives you the menu, and then you immediately say, sir, can I take an order? And you stand there and wait and wait and wait, and you feel awkward to browse the menu sometimes, right? Let's move on here. So when we offer the new lens, we want to reframe the perspective itself. It's to really support the client to reframe certain perspective. They maybe get things stuck at certain door. They're so fixated with the door. I want to get through the door, but they're not ready yet. And they go like, what if I fail? What if this is not a successful one? What if? Sometimes I go the other way around and tell the client, says that, what if there's actually a chance of success? You are seeing one way, but what about the other way? You're not seeing that, right? One of the key questions here, example, is like, how might you see this differently if you are not so hard on yourself? Or would you do it differently? If let's just say you want to close the loop with your, let's say your team members. And when we offer the reframe, sometimes we also want to ask permission. I wonder if there's another way you would like to see this. And we name the opposite that's associated with the perspective that they see, and I flip the whole thing around. This requires a little bit of practice in terms of, for coaches, for new coaches especially, need to be mindful about what is the flip side of the story. Sometimes it may not be so black and white. And sometimes it is to also ask the client if there's a possibility, whatever thing you say, it could be something different or something, a flip side, right? Invite the client to think on their own, to reframe the perspective. And can end up with the questions like, if you were to think about it differently or on the opposite side, what could be possible? So that's also one of my favorite questions. All right. Last one here is when we share our observations, this is the changes in the 7.11. Let me go back there for a while. When we share our observations and knowledge and feelings without attachment, that is actually having the potential to create new insights for the client. ICF added the knowledge, which I was happy about it, because sometimes the client has limitations in terms of what they have gone through in their life experience, that they just do not know the part that they do not know. No matter how much we want to evoke the awareness, there may be stories to share, to tell, that is nothing to do with the client, and put them into the shoe of the story. And that's how I actually opened today's sessions with the service staff serving a patron in the restaurant. I pin a picture and I keep going back to the picture. Imagine yourself as a service staff, what would you say? Imagine the patron tell you this, tell you that, what would you say? That is the body of the knowledge that I got inspiration from one of my mentors. And I go like, oh, this is interesting to evoke awareness. No stress. If the door is there, the door is there. I'm just going to open up and invite and invite and invite. That is my body of knowledge. You can use metaphor like this to help the client to imagine their own positions being in where they are at. Because they will feel something every single time when they mention certain things. When we want to invite them to be a safe space and without attachment itself, without proving that I'm wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, that kind of stuff, we're just simply noticing. I noticed that you felt choking when you say that word just now. I noticed you sniff when you say about that story, when you think about that person. What's really happening there? This is just observations. Okay, we can use the client's story to build an observation and formulate the knowledge body based on our own experience. And that's when it becomes really helpful for the client to learn new skills as well. It doesn't need to be right? And the client may take it or leave it. We can return it later. Your job is open the door. You can't push the client through the door. If let's just say you are the service staff standing outside the restaurant, when a patron come and check in your menu, you say this word, "Sir, would you like to have a seat? I see you have a 3-person here." And the patron decided to leave. You don't go and chase them. It feels weird. And it feels like you're not carrying the name of the restaurant, right? And you're just over. He may not come in. That's fine. We find another door. We find another patron. Today he doesn't come in doesn't mean that tomorrow he doesn't come in. We just do not know when, right? So with all these things itself, right, I want to come back to here. Every single core competency I do, I love this very last slide here itself. When we are in a sessions or discovery call, don't need to sell them an idea. We give and we can actually offer, right? We evoke. We don't need to convince them. We try to awaken them. We are not closing anything with them. We're just opening. Evoke, awaken, open. I hope that these three words actually can land with you all here to give you a perspective how awareness could look like, how to evoke awareness could look like. And I hope that restaurant story can help you to put your position as into the service staff shoe. What would you do if the client reject you? What would you do if the client say no? What would you do if the client say yes? Right? They won't remember what kind of sessions they do. They don't remember your name sometimes. And well, they will not forget the kind of moment that you help them to see themselves anew. That is actually what coaching is all about, in my opinion. Right? You might have a different way of looking at coaching, but if you are still developing that, I hope that you can take a look at it. What does evoke awareness means to you? To me, I'm sitting in that shoe. I'm standing in the shoe of that service staff, serving my menu in my restaurant, and my restaurant is Italian restaurant. Okay, and you might have different restaurant. That's your identity. All right. Right. We're towards the end over here. I just want to open up for conversations a little bit. What is actually becoming more aware in your space currently? Share in 1 or 2 lines. Signa, would you like to share first?
I could really relate to the story that you shared on the restaurant piece because it kind of helps you understand the real life, not very
Oh, yeah.
technically. Yeah, but
Yeah.
what opened up for me is that in my own way of coaching, I do have a tendency to, I wouldn't say push, but slightly lead.
Mm.
And kind of it helps me bring back to say that, okay, what are the options that I could use?
Mm.
Yeah, thank you for that, Charlene.
You're welcome. Hi, Shara. Would you like to share what is opening up for you here?
No, I think a few things that really stood out for me is that the coach being aware of their own internal field while they are coaching, whereas it really, that is the awareness that the coach needs to have at every point in time during the session, when they're sitting in front of their client, leading them, helping them to see, parts of themselves, and then to be aware of what is getting created between the client and the coachee, and
Mm.
that awareness,
Mm.
and then the awareness that stems from within, and to be offered that as to the client to see where the client is, picking up their awareness from. So those are the three layers of awareness that I see operating at all, given point in time, whether we as coaches we want to see it or we don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's something that has stayed with me, that the restaurant is there. It is it's open by itself,
Yeah.
and there are invitations already. There is a waiter ready to serve you. There is the whole staff ready to cook
Mm.
that meal for you.
Mm.
As a coach and as a client, are you willing to eat that meal together? And where
Yeah.
is therefore?
Yeah. If it's not a meal, next door there's more. The whole
Yeah,
stretch is stretched.
yeah. I think your
You pick
screen is
one, right? Reliving
okay.
that restaurant scene. This is not the
Yeah,
first time. Oh, okay. As I'm reliving the restaurant scene itself, sometimes I also ask myself, am I the service staff that is like pulling my client into the restaurant, or I'm actually kind of like inviting them in, right? So that actually stays with
correct.
me for quite a fair bit. And in terms of like, if I were to be the service staff, if you are really, really respecting in terms of the coaching that you do, well, we know where's the boundary as well.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I might be ready for some good spicy food, but my coachee may want to go for something lighter. And I mean, I can see that, spicy food might help my coachee to,
Mm-hmm.
get rid of some of those pent-up emotions. But my coachee would still choose saying that I would want to go lighter right now so that,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
can digest the spicy food later. So
absolutely.
that's that's absolutely okay. So it's
Yeah,
about being where the coachee wants you to be.
yeah. 7.7, adapting to the changes.
Yeah,
That part. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
thank you.
Divya, are you around? I'm not so sure whether you are around. If you would like
Yeah,
to share, you
hi.
can unmute. Yes, hi. Finally hear
Yeah,
your
hi,
sound.
Charlene. Sorry, I'm outside, so I need to keep my
No
camera off, but I didn't
worries.
want to miss the session. So, yeah, I love the analogy of the restaurant and the service staff, which you said. I think that brings the humbleness inside us, that we are in a service-oriented, work. And so I really love that. And I was able to resonate with that.
Mm,
That's a beautiful analogy. I think I want to remember that because I think it's really helpful for me. So last 2 weeks I had like two discovery calls, but after that I was not able to, proceed. So there's always this feeling, right, like we're not able to go forward. But I think this brings back in a state of humbleness again that, like if this person is not there, there's another person who can come. So when that,
yeah.
like feeling comes, we feel much better rather than not feeling disappointed. And this brings us back into center again.
Mm,
So that way,
yeah.
I feel like it is really helpful to have an anchor inside us, a constant reminder to not forget this thing, which I felt was really nice. And I love the way how you said to have reflections and observations and help the client, like go inside, deep inside them, and a lot of learnings. Thank
Wow.
you. And I've just joined recently, so I'm doing my ICF. It's been 3 months, so I'm in a newbie stage where I'm learning, and this
Yeah.
is very helpful.
You're welcome. And you know what, Divya, what you just said just remind me of something else. The restaurant is our style restaurant, right? Our own restaurant. You might have your own dish, your own restaurant dishes that you want to serve. Like I say, my
Mhm.
restaurant is an Italian restaurant. I'm just gonna serve pasta, pizza, and all these things, right? And then one day you say that you want dumpling. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Maybe let me learn how to make dumpling in my restaurant. Maybe one day I will serve that, but maybe not today. So that adaptation, the restaurant can change, and you have the authority, because this is your own coaching work, what kind of coaches that you want to be for yourself. And that on its own is also evoking awareness by evolving the restaurant styles together with your own style,
Mhm.
and how to train your service staff in a way that carries you. You're the owner, you're the service staff, you are the one that is actually, maybe you're the chef as well, right? You just think about it at different roles and positions. What are you actually trying to do with the client? That on its own is also evoking awareness. Being in a restaurant, if you notice that whoever that is inside the restaurant is just part of you. You're the chef, you're the service staff, you're the owner, you're the cleaner, you're the person
Yeah.
who decides the menu. Do you notice that? It's your coaching restaurant. People just come in and eat and have your sessions with you. Okay? So
Yeah.
there's something additional outside this evoking awareness, because the restaurant is your own part of your own identity as well. Who do you want to be as a coach? You will show. All right. Cool.
Yeah. Thank you
And
so much.
you're welcome. And any questions at all? Otherwise, you guys can DM me. I'm part of the group chat as well. You can send me any messages if you need any help. So I hope you all have a good day there, and I hope this session has been useful. All right.
Yeah, Charlene.
Thank you,
Thank you for
You're
Charlene.
the
You
welcome.
time.
too.
Yeah.
You have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.